Well, hello and welcome to my world. This is Talk Leadership with Cedrick. You know, everybody needs a little TLC. And Talk Leadership with Cedrick is where we focus on leadership and personal growth with business leaders, educators, and local thought leaders. Our goal is to introduce our audience to leaders who are making an impact with innovative ideas. Our guiding leadership principle is the law of contribution, which says growing yourself enables you to grow others. See, you can't give what you don't have. So first, you must grow yourself in order to grow others. We believe that outstanding leaders like yourself help us to help others. So tonight we have another dynamic leader with us in studio. Now, you know, every week I like to do a proper introduction of my guest. So let me introduce our special guest tonight. And his name is Mr. Craig Marks. See, changing a city, changing a community takes the right person stepping up and saying, I want to make a difference. So tonight we have Mr. Craig Marks in studio, and he's the person that's stepping up and saying he wants to make a difference in his community. Now, Craig is a candidate for the Lake Charles City Council District F position. And I've been knowing Craig since high school. You know, we just graduated high school a few weeks ago, but since high school, and he's the right candidate to take the city of Lake Charles to the next level. So let's welcome Craig.
Thank you for having me, Sid.
Awesome. So let me give you a little bit of information about Craig. So Craig is has 3 children, Trayvon Anthony Marks, Brandy DeShante Marks, and Kayla Diane Simeon. Craig is also was a member of the Louisiana National Guard. He's won awards, the Army Service Ribbon, the National Defense Service Medal, and the Louisiana War Cross. And he obtained the Marksman Badge and he served during Operation Desert Storm. Craig is also a graduate of Lake Charles Boston High School. He is a alumnus of University of Louisiana of Southwest Louisiana, now known as University of Louisiana at Lafayette, and also McNeese State University. Now, Craig has done a lot of things in his community and been involved in other organizations in the community. In addition to his professional career with Alcoa Primary Metals and the Water Waste Division of the City of Lake Charles, he is also the second vice president of the Lake Charles chapter of the NAACP, the Kiwanis Club North of the Kiwanis Club of North Lake Charles, Greater St. Mary Missionary Baptist Church, and Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. His focus is rebuilding and revitalizing the city, economic development throughout District F and the city of Lake Charles as a whole. He also wants to focus on homelessness and community and police relationships. And we're going to talk about all this stuff tonight, planning and development as well. And let me tell you what, I like what Craig says. He says, your vote is your voice. So let your voice be heard. Let me say that again. Your vote is your voice. So let your voice be heard. So Craig, thank you for coming on the show tonight. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Sid.
Awesome. Now I was a little tongue-tied for some reason, but you know what, folks? This is the beauty of live broadcasting. We're going to have a good time talking with Craig tonight. So what I want to do for some of you may know Craig, some may not know. You just may know of Craig. So tonight I want to help you to better understand who Craig is and why he's the right candidate for District F, Lake Charles City Council. So, Craig, tell our listeners a little bit about your journey to leadership and how you get to where you are today.
Well, basically, Sid, I'm a lifelong resident of Lake Charles, Louisiana. I've been here all my life. Never desired to go anywhere else. And I got involved in my community over 25 years ago. Basically, starting with Little League sports, then officiating high school sports, and then I became a community activist. By getting involved with issues that we had in our community. I was appointed to a couple of boards, one being the Lake Charles North Redevelopment Authority, which I sat as president of. And that's basically, how I got into it, being conscious of the things that are going on around us, the things that we lack and the things that we need. So I have a passion for serving my community.
Well, that is definitely awesome. And we need more people like yourself that have the passion to want to serve the community and help take the community to another level. So why run for city council? There's a lot of different ways you can serve your community, but why city council?
Well, basically, the first reason, Sid, is that I think if I can't win my city council seat, then I can't win anything higher than that. So that's the bare minimum of it. But really, I'm running because I see the need in our community. We have a lot of things that are lacking. As you know, over the past year, we've had 2 hurricanes. And then this past week, we've also had a snowstorm. So for our size city, we've been hit with a lot of things over the past year. But prior to that, living in this community all my life, I noticed that our governmental area, the area of government, has lacked in our area. And, you grew up here, the things that we go through here. And I'm a firm believer that the only way you can change things is to be a part of something. And I learned a long time ago, there's a quote that says, no man is the whole of himself. So I can't basically live in a community and see things happening around me and not be concerned or at least motivated to try and change things.
Yeah, well, that is definitely true and definitely awesome. And, I think back, Craig, to high school days and think about when you were just talking, saying what you were just saying. I think about some of those people who were teachers in schools, specifically at Lake Charles, Boston. That's where we went to school together, who were instrumental in helping shape some of your opinions, some of the things that you do in life, and how instrumental they were in that community. You can call a school really a little city within itself, right? And so I'm sure names like Robert Palmer, Rodney Guillen, Coach Weston, Coach Lloyd, a lot of those teachers, right, shaped some of the things that you want to do.
Right.
That you're doing in life. So that's awesome. So, as you run for this office, there are going to be a lot of different things you're going to be addressing and talking about. But, what makes you different from the incumbent that you're running against? So, or a better way to ask that is, what things are you going to do different to help take Lake Charles to that next level than the incumbent?
Well, I think the first thing that where I'm different and where I will be different is the fact that I'm engaged with the community. I have a connection and a communication with the community. I didn't, this seat didn't make me a community activist. Being a community activist made me want to run for this seat, because being in the community, talking, living in the community, you learn those things that we need, as compared to other parts of the city. So that's why I'm going to be different, number one. Number two, I have a passion for this. This is not just something that I woke up and decided to do. I ran 4 years ago, and prior to that, for the first 15, 20 years of my community activism, I was preparing to serve in a role like this. Now, I didn't know that it was going to necessarily be the city council, but the things that I got involved in, the issues that I took up, the battles that I fought, was all in preparation for whatever that call to service would be. Sure. And I think that's where I differ than most people running. This is not just, you didn't just meet Craig when this seat came open. You knew about Craig prior to the election. And I'm a prime proponent of the fact that what a person does before he seeks office is generally what he will do when he holds office.
Right. Yeah. I really like that, Craig. And so, a lot of people may not know, because like with the Lake Charles Education Collaboration, because I'm always the kind of the face of the organization, but a lot of people don't know that, you would go into schools with me, mentoring fifth grade boys, right? As a part of the Millionaire Boys mentoring. So you're absolutely right. Your involvement and activism in the community is definitely there, even though you know it, and I know it, and some people know it. Everybody might not know it, and
But Sid, you know this firsthand. When you're serving and you're doing things, you're not going to be the most known person. And in most cases, you're not going to be the most popular person. But the things that you do have to be from the heart and not for notoriety.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's think about your first 90 days. You get elected, and the election win, by the way. What wins the election? I think we might have lost Chris. As you get ready to go into this election, and let's say you get elected, right? Walk us through your first 90-day plan. I know you're going to be busy trying to get to know all your city council members, but what's your first 90 days going to look like?
Well, Sid, as I tell many people, what I've learned about when you seek offices like this, you can't really predict what your first 90 days, 100 days would look like, because you don't know what you're walking into. You don't know what the budget looks like. You don't know what the makeup of the city, being that especially in our case, being that we've had hurricanes and storms, and we got a lot of damage throughout the city. But my plans, the first few steps that I plan to take and implement with the help of the other ones, is number one, I think that we need to have our city council meetings televised. And I think the reason why I say that, I believe that we lack communication between our representatives and our communities. And part of that is because on the nights that we have city council meetings, maybe everybody can't make it. You have people that have to deal with kids and work and traffic and all those different things. So I think the first step to getting us on par with as a governmental body and the community is to televise our city council meetings. So I will be doing everything within my power to try and urge the board to start televising our meetings, where it will give us a better opportunity to be in touch with our community, so that the community won't just find out issues when it becomes a hot topic and we have to pack the city council room out. We be aware of it, because on a daily basis, I think that people will be more in tune if you make it easier for them to be a part of whatever it is you're trying to do. That'll be my first push. The second push will be, as I told you in my push card, the relationship between the community and the police. And I think we're at a crucial time in our community, especially with our youth and our younger adults, and I'm an advocate of having a police presence in our neighborhoods, in our communities, where people can feel comfortable. We've had a lot of break-ins in the area that I live in, and it's becoming quite commonplace. And because the city, a city at the size of Lake Charles, you can pretty much predict where the police are going to be, because we have a small police force, and it's no fault due to them not doing their jobs. It's just, I believe that we need a bigger presence so that the elders in our communities, people like myself and you, we can feel more confident. We can have a relationship with the police, because I think a lot of times what stymies us is the fact that, we grew up in neighborhoods and communities that didn't really trust the police too much, because we don't see them unless there's a problem. We don't have people, police officers walk in the street, where people can gain the confidence of them. And that causes a lot of problems, because we've been conditioned to where when we see things going wrong, we won't say anything, because we live under that quote unquote code that we were raised in. And I want to see that change, where, police officers are riding bicycles in our streets. They're roaming our neighborhoods, where if people are going to decide or think about doing crime, they're not going to know exactly where the police is. They're going to be so afraid, because police are everywhere, and the community will buy into that. Therefore, when it comes time to solving crimes, when it comes time to having to do things that calls for a relationship, we don't have to build it in that moment. It'll be already established. So those are really my main two things. And the third thing is, we have to do something with our homelessness, because with the hurricanes and with the freeze that we just had, it has shined a light like never before on the homeless situation. Now, don't get me wrong. we knew that we had a homeless situation. And I believe that the governmental bodies have done the best that they can. But I think now it's time for some fresh, innovative ideas, build some relationships with other cities, bigger cities like Houston that deal with this on a regular basis. And maybe we can implement some things that that will help us with that. Now, I am not a guru on homelessness. I can't tell you, everything that is going to get out of homelessness, but I can tell you that I know that it's very easy to get into homelessness. The problem is not, once they're in. The problem is we have to have some sort of measure to help keep people out of it. Because once they're in it, they become a statistic. They become a number. And we generally lose sight of them until something happens like a freeze or a hurricane, where we really have to be concerned about their well-being. So going in, I'm not going to make any promises to my constituents that I'm going to do this and do that without knowing what my resources is, what the budget is looking like. But I can tell you that within this first 4-year period, I will make some changes that will affect both District F and Lake Charles as a whole.
Wow. Well, that is awesome. I love the strong statement there. And, you said, hey, really transparency. This is having that the city council meetings online are available so that people can watch them if they can't be there in person, right? Helps with greater transparency.
Right, exactly.
Right? And then also, obviously the homeless situation impacting that. And then the next thing you said was community and police relationships. Mm-hmm. And you're right. In some communities, the police and community relationships is strained.
Right.
And anything that you can do to fix that, and fix is not even the right word, make it better than it is.
Right.
Because there's always going to be some of that, right? Tension that's there. Yeah. Awesome. So, Craig, leaders come with all different types of strengths and different packages, right? So what are some strengths that you believe that all leaders should have, whether you're in city council, whether you're the mayor, whether you're leading a company, leading your family? What are some strengths that leaders should have?
I think it's two main qualities. All of the other things you can be trained at. In other words, you can train me how to do the administrative side of it. You can train me how to do the investigations of what the root cause analysis is. But if you're not a communicator and you're not a listener, well, first, let me say it again. You have to first be a listener. And then you have to be able to communicate in order to come up with results, because a lot of times people are listening to respond and not necessarily to hear what the remedies are. So I think that the two main qualities that leaders should have is first, be a good listener, and second, be a good communicator. And then thirdly, you have to be able, which falls in lines with communication, you have to be able to articulate to your constituents what the plan is, based upon what you've gathered from them. So I think those two qualities, and which I possess, are listening and communication.
Awesome. Absolutely love that. And you're absolutely right on one of the things you said is, a lot of times people are listening just to respond. I didn't hear nothing you said because I'm so ready to respond that I'm not listening. And then that leads to, I'm not able to, either we can't come to a good consensus. Two, I'm not able to really clearly understand what your issue or your concern is because I was just listening to respond.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the breakdown that we have with the community and our government, because the community more often than not said, because, you and I are part of this community wherever we're at. And we are quick to jump on what's not being done and not listening to why it's not being done. And maybe there's a plan for it going forward. But we quick to react and not listen.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree with you on that. Thanks very much for sharing those leader strengths. Definitely appreciate it. We also know that good leaders ask great questions. Mm-hmm. So give us one or two great questions that either you ask people or someone has asked you and you went, man, that's a really great question.
Well, I think depending on what the situation is, I generally ask the question of what made you do this? And I think that is so crucial when you're seeking to be any kind of leader in our community to serve, be any kind of service role. What makes us do the things we do? And I think that is a common denominator in the fact that when you elect me to go and serve on your behalf, I have to have some sort of communication with you. And based upon what I know the needs of the community is, this is what's going to drive my vote. This is what's going to drive what I do. So I think the main question that I always try to ask is, what made you do what you did? I question my leaders. Why did you vote the way you did? Or why do you feel the way you feel? Because I need to know that, because those factors are detrimental to what we're going to do next. The second question I ask is, how is it going to affect you? That's the question. How if I do this, how will this affect my community? How will it affect District F? How will it affect the elderly or the youth or whatever, situation it may be? So those two questions are what I generally ask myself in my mind, and then I translate it to whomever I'm dealing with. What caused you to do what you do, and what is going to be the effect of what's being done?
Those are two great questions. Absolutely love that. I always love questions that begin with the word what, why, and how. Because you see, I know that those are what we call in the sales world high gain questions. I can't just say yes or no to it. I got to give you some more information, right? So absolutely love that. So Craig, tell us, how can people get involved with your campaign?
Well, you can get involved with my campaign by donation. You can reach out to me either at my email, craigemarks@yahoo.com, or you can reach me by telephone, and we can set up, that form of helping my campaign at 337-794-1860. You can be involved by going out and vote. You can help my campaign 100% by going out to vote, because here's the deal, Sid. If you don't go vote, I don't have a chance to bring about change. Now I'm not telling those people out there who to go vote for. I'm telling you vote for Craig, but I'm not telling you to go vote simply because you're voting for me. Find the candidate that you think suits your needs, suits the needs of your community. Find the best, most qualified candidate in your opinion and cast your ballot for that particular person, because that is the basis, the foundation of our society. We're bringing about change. You hear people talk about term limits and all these different things. Well, we have built-in term limits. If you don't like what a particular leader is doing, you have the opportunity to vote him out, whether it be every 4 years, every 2 years, every 6 years. We shouldn't have to rely on the government to put a law in place to make somebody get out the way, because the realization of it is, as long as people are going to elect me, I'm going to stay in office. And this is the most crucial thing if you want to help myself and others, is to understand that you not going vote is a vote. Good, bad politicians have been elected by good people who don't go vote. And that's what we need to understand. So if you want to help my campaign on March 6th through the 13th, which is early voting, go out, cast your ballot for whatever area you live in. The only one election that we have that is a common among all is our mayor's race. And even in that race, we need to have the voice of the people. It's too late to talk about it, said, after the election is over with, because after this election is over with, you stuck with who's ever in it for 4 years. So if you want your voices to be heard, if you want your voice to be recognized, go out and vote. You help my campaign by going out and vote number 56, Craig Marks in District F.
Absolutely. And he said early voting is March 6th through the 13th. And Correct. You can get involved with his campaign for Lake Charles City Council District F. And you see his email and phone number are scrolling across the screen. And we'll put that in the comments as well for you to be able to get that. And folks, look, it takes money to run a campaign. So whether you're in city council or you're running for mayor or you're running for any elected position, it takes money to run campaigns. So any donation, any size, I'm sure will help.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
And I want to be clear on this, said, a lot of times we hear people ask for donations because you know as well as anybody what it takes to run a campaign. First, let me interject that the election is March 20th. Election day is March 20th. But you have to be willing. I know I had to make up in my mind before I started running, whether I get one donation, 1 cent of anybody's money, I have to be willing to invest in myself, in order for me to make this bid, to seek this seat. But you, as citizens, should also be willing to invest in your leaders so that you can give them the resources that they need in order to get in place and serve the needs of the community. And I think in our community, especially, we have a problem or a propensity to talk a lot, but no action, when it comes to getting behind the communities. It's good to be king, but it's even better to be a kingmaker. So that's the mentality that we need to have in our community.
Absolutely, 100% agree with that. And if someone wanted to make a donation, is there a website or an email address or something that they can go to make that donation?
Yes, I have my Cash App. Let me give it to you right quick. I know I should have had this prepared. My Cash App is, I'm still trying to catch up with this high tech stuff. It'll be the $, capital Craig, capital A, capital Marks. So it'll be the $, capital CRAIG, capital A, capital MARKS. So that's Craig A. Marks.
Okay. And your email, Craig E. Marks or Craig A. Marks?
Craig E. Marks.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Got that. And so, folks, that's scrolling across your screen, and we'll put the Cash App thing up here and link up in just a second as well. So, Craig, what are some of the things the city of Lake Charles can or should be doing to attract new businesses to relocate to the city of Lake Charles?
First of all, we need to be coming up with some sort of plan that's going to make a small business, going to make it worth their while to come to Lake Charles, because we're already in a rebuilding process. So, we've had a few businesses to close. We have a few businesses that left the area. But Lake Charles is a thriving city, and I really believe that we're going to be bigger and better than we were before. But I need to give you some incentive to the business owner to come to my area or to come to my city, whether that be a tax break, whether that be some sort of rental agreement, to get you started in the place that you want to get started in. I believe those are the things that the city needs to be doing. We also need to start initiating a diversity plan. And what I mean by diversity plan, we have to cater to those kids that are graduating high school, that are graduating college, that don't have the same views and ideas that we have. We are heavily plant driven in our area, but we need to start to branch out into entertainment, into those different areas that we seek in other cities. And part of that is the people. If we're not, I guarantee you, said you can go across the United States and find a community from Lake Charles, Louisiana. I don't know how it happens, but we always manage to have a role in some of these major cities. You go and you meet people, man, I went to high school with this person, or whatever the case may be. And we're losing these people to other cities because we don't have a diverse business community. When we come out of high school, we come out of college, most people revert to the plants because that's what's around here. Okay. But we have the means. We have several casinos here that we can piggyback off of. We have our community college that has just started a program for catering and all of these things that are done with the entertainment industry. We're known for our food. The mayor is implementing a plan that is to develop the I-10 corridor, which services about 80,000 cars per day that we need to be attracting off the highway to build businesses in Lake Charles. So there's a myriad of things that we can do that we haven't been doing in the past. But I believe that with a change in leadership, a new idea, a new energy, we can bring these things to our city.
Yeah, absolutely. And revenue generation is the name of the game for any city to thrive. And revenue generation normally, or a new revenue generation is normally from new businesses coming in.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So yeah, I agree with you on that. So what do you want the citizens of Lake Charles, Louisiana to know? I mean, what do you want them to do, rather, not to know, but what you want them to do?
Well, first of all, the most important thing that we need to do in the next coming weeks, the next 2 to 3 weeks, up until March 20th, is become active in your community. Become aware of the people that are running for your offices in your particular districts, because that is going to be crucial to our rebuilding and our rebranding and our redevelopment in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'll just be brutally honest with you, Sid. We've had, the same council for the past 20 some odd years, sitting, and that's not, I'm not going to say that they're not good leaders, but I know that when you sit in one place too long, you become stagnant, so we need the residents to come out and be heard, both through your vote, attend the meetings. I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't go to meetings and I don't, but this is where everything is decided. This is where things are happening. We can't become social media magnets where we find out everything on social media, because here's the reality. Once you hear it on social media, it's already done. Right. It's too late. So we need to, I'm urging the citizens of Lake Charles to make a statement in these next upcoming elections, to go out, let your voices be heard, cast your ballot. Once your ballot is cast, hold your leaders accountable, because I know for me, said, it's a two-way street, quid pro quo. I'm asking for your vote. You're asking me to be your voice, but I expect accountability on both of our parts. You're going to want me to do the right thing, but I need to hear from you. I need to know the things that are bothering you, the things that need to be fixed, the things that we have concerns about. And if you allow me or anyone to sit in an office for X amount of years and you don't communicate, the only time you find out about things is if it's running on the news, then we're going to be in a poor shape. But I believe we're on the cusp, and with everything, there's a silver lining. And as I sit back and watch all the things that we've been through just in a year's time, we have maintained beyond measure. So the silver lining is God is giving us a new pad to create our own design of what we want Lake Charles to be. So many years we have criticized, we have complained, said, and you probably can see this better than I can from coming where you at and visiting home. But I'm living in the same city that we were living in high school. Mm-hmm. We got the same businesses, we got the same entertainment, we got the same streets, we got the same water, we got, we don't have any signs of growth. Now, don't get me wrong, our city was growing, but it wasn't growing to the point to where it was noticeable, where people like yourself were saying, oh man, Lake Charles is a consideration now that I've graduated college, now that I've started my own business and I want to go home and retire. We have to make it pleasing. So I am urging the citizens of Lake Charles, practice what you preach. If you expect something of our leadership expects something of you. So become active in voting, become active in attending meetings, become active in your communities, in your districts, become active in letting your voices get out.
Absolutely, 100% agree with you. Now, you're not saying this, but I'm saying this. If we change meetings to the name of it, instead of calling the meeting, calling the tailgate party, then everybody's going to show up. Right. And again, you're not saying this, but I'm saying it. All right. And that's an interesting point
that you bring up, Sid, because that's a prime example about people will do what pleases them. But when we start to make the connection that you got bad streets, partly because we got bad leadership. You don't have the water or the sewage or the drainage or the lights or anything that you're complaining about is directly related to your vote of your leadership.
Right. Yeah, I 100% agree with you with that. And like you said, your vote is your voice. And if you don't go vote, folks, early voting is March 6th through the 13th. And the election is on March 20th. But let me tell you what, folks, if you just decide to show up on election day, sometimes you're going to be really late, right? You need to show up early and help other people show up early and often and to make things happen. This is your opportunity, folks. If you say my community, or in the area where District F is, my community is not moving forward. My community is going backwards. My community is stagnant. This is your opportunity to change that.
Right.
Now, come March 21st,
it's too late.
It's too late. And if you don't go vote, then you don't have a voice.
And the interesting thing about that, said, is from March 6th through the 13th, we have 7 days to cast one vote or two votes, or, a collective of votes when you go to the polls. Right. If you can't make time in 7 days, then I don't know what else to say. Because if it comes down to just that one day, you could be sick, it could be raining, we could have a storm, whatever the case. Early voting is the key to change. Get out, early vote. Let your vote be on the roll so we ain't got to worry about what's going to happen on March 20th.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you. And, we have 86,400 seconds in every day. Mm-hmm. And if you can't figure out a few seconds in the course of a week to go vote, something's wrong, folks. All right. Something's wrong. And so you need to make sure that March 6th through the 13th, you figure out a day in there where you can go vote. If you can't get on the 6th or the 13th, March 20th, you need to make sure that you're in voting in the voting booth. So, Craig, so, we've talked a little bit about politics, and we're going to talk some more about that as well. But let's let the audience get to know you and know a fun side. So tell the audience something interesting or fun about you.
Well, I mean, I'm a good communicator. That's my thing. I can walk into a room and communicate with anybody. I love to have a good time. I'm approachable. I'm a person that, I love jokes. I love to be around people that have high spirits, because I'm the type of person with the things that I've been through in my life. There's, we used to hear our parents say it, and maybe your grandparents told you, but tomorrow brings on a whole different outlook on the problem that you have in the day. Right. And I'm just a firm believer as that if the Lord keep waking me up, tomorrow is going to be better than the day. And the only person that I have to compare myself to is me. So my job is just to be better than I was today, to be better tomorrow. So, I think my strongest attribute is that I'm a people's person. I can get along, I can talk, I can argue with the best of them.
Okay. All right. So now you're at home. You and the four walls. Nobody else is there. The blinds closed. What's going to be the favorite dessert you're going to pull out?
Ooh, well, they took my dessert away, Sid, because they closed down my churches. I'm a church's chicken fan. And I can eat that all day, every day. I am too. I'm relaxing. That's my peace meal.
Okay. Here in Houston, churches is temporarily closed as well. I think it's a long-term deal, but they say temporarily. Give us 3 things that Lake Charles citizens will benefit with you being in office.
Energy, number one. Having someone with the energy to go out and listen to the community and fight for those things that are best for the community. Now, let me not give the misconception that everything my constituents want, I'm gonna go and do. You put me in leadership basically to find out things that you're not privy to. So some of the decisions that I may make, you may not understand, but my door will always be open to explain, and I will always do my best to make sure that you have all the information you need before a vote is coming up, so that you will know why I'm voting the way I'm voting. I don't know. Said I got kind of brain locked when you told me. Repeat that question.
Yeah. So 3 things that the city, the Lake Charles citizens will benefit from you being in office.
Energy. Number 2 will be innovation. I like to think outside the box. I'm not afraid to reach out to people like you said, other people in the community that have held this position that may know more about a specific topic than I do. I'm eager to accept input. That's the second thing that you're going to benefit. The third thing, you're going to benefit from a person that is identical to the city that we're trying to rebuild. I've been at the lowest points. I've been where my life looked like a hurricane came through it, and I had to rebuild, and I had to rebrand myself to make myself presentable and acceptable, and a person that people would want to be around or have in their homes or having their, as part of their boards or whatever it may be. So those are the three things: experience with the situations that we have now, because right now in Lake Charles is a crucial time for us, because in the year 2021, we're going to have to deal with redistricting. We're going to have to deal with rebuilding our community. We're going to have to deal with some other issues that are crucial to where we go in the next 5 to 10 years. So collectively, in one package, you're getting someone that is not afraid to speak up, that is not afraid to fight, and that is passionate about all people. It's not a race thing. It's not a gender thing. It's a people thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely love that. So again, folks, let me just remind you, early voting is March 6th through the 13th, and election day is March 20th. And we're talking to Mr. Craig Marks, who is running for Lake Charles City Council, District F. All right. And if you fall in District F, you need to make sure, one, that you are registered to vote, and then you go and cast your vote. And Craig is asking for you to cast your vote for him. So how should the city best move forward to bring residents back who left? You guys, like you said earlier, you've gone through a couple of hurricanes in what, a matter of 6 weeks apart from each other. And some people left. What does the city need to do to help bring those people back home?
I think the first thing we need to do, is provide housing. Some sort of affordable housing, not just housing, because there's homes being built, every day. But when you start to think about the average family, the average family may not have the money to go out and buy a $250,000, $260,000 house. So we need an area, not one area. We need areas where people can get to affordable housing. I'm in talks with a resident that's from Lake Charles that moved away and wants to come back and invest in affordable housing, in some of the areas around town. So I'm working with people in regards to that. But I think the city needs to make a concerted effort. It's not much you can tell private business about the things that they do, but I think that there's where the communication comes in. If I can convince some of these contractors to build affordable homes, true affordable homes, and affordable simply means that it meets the average income of the regular resident in Lake Charles, and if we can work out something with them, maybe cut down on the permits, the cost of permits, in some way work with them to incentivize them to want to build those particular type homes for the long haul. They'll make their money over years, not just in one lick and you're done. That's the number one thing that we need to do. The number two thing, we need to build a confidence in those people that are away, because in talking to some people that have been displaced, they sort of feel like no one cares for them. That Lake Charles didn't do enough to bring them back, and to a certain degree that may be right. But people, I want to urge people to understand that, although we look at the city as a separate entity or government, so to speak, the city was hit hard too. Our pockets as a whole were hit hard, and it saddens me to see lifelong friends and lifelong residents pack up and move away or be forced to move away. Right. I think we have a pretty good workforce, and I think people need to understand that, every job is not going to pay $50 an hour. That's just the reality of it. But in order for us to grow, we got to crawl before we walk. You know, we have a lot of jobs. We have a lot of businesses that are closed because we can't find workers, you know, to come and work, because people look at 10 or 15 or whatever the minimum wage is as being bad. Well, that's in the works too. I don't know how it's going to come out, or what's going to be the ultimate income, but we all have to do our part to make Lake Charles what it is. Because here's the thing, said, those people that were forced to be displaced, that's one thing. But people who are choosing to move to other cities, you're going to have money. You may have to take a job just like you did in Lake Charles to go and live in another place. Right. You know, I'm urging people to don't just give away your property. Don't get so frustrated to where, you know, your house can't be rebuilt, or you may not have the money right now. But there's people out there that you can talk to that may work with you to rebuild your home. You know, you just never know. A closed mouth don't get fed. So I think that those are the things that we have to do. We have to appeal to the needs of the people, and we got to stop looking for someone to lay the blame on. God allowed these hurricanes. God allowed this storm. That's no individual person that dictated that, because if it was on us, we would have never had those things. But now we're in a situation we have to play with the uniform that we would issue. And that's just the brass tacks of it.
Right. Yeah. And you're absolutely right about that. And you know, one of the things you said is everybody can't have the $50,000, or every job is not going to be $50 per hour. The other part of that is not everybody can handle $50 an hour job, right? Because let's say they offered everybody a $50 an hour job, but that means some expectations are going to come with that, right?
Right.
So you may not be ready. So you're right. You got to start here and then you slowly build.
And here's the thing, said, you asked a question earlier about what makes me different. You know, I've been through this storm before. You know, I'm not talking about just a hurricane. I've been broke. I've been where I've lost everything and had to rebuild, you know, but through the grace of God and faith and belief that I could do it, I was able to regroup and come back up. You know, I'm not the richest man in the world by far, but God has allowed me to see things that are not about money all the time. You know, some things are being able to help people, to have strength in your body to go out and, you know, help the next door neighbor, or help the kid down the street, or something along that line. And I'm just urging people, as bad as you think it is, it's not that bad. It can always get worse. And for us to still be where we are, to come through, because let me tell you something, I hear our mayor say it all the time. And, you know, sometimes you can hear it so much and you can become callous to it. But there are communities that in past years were better than us, that went through these things that we're going through, and they no longer exist. Are they struggling? Are they bankrupt? You know, we have to be thankful for the things that we have and make the best of a bad situation. How they say that we need to take our lemons and make them into lemonade. And we have that potential right here in Lake Charles if we just do our part as citizens.
Absolutely. 100% agree with you on that. So I know we talked about how listeners can help you, and I'm going to put that back up on the screen here, folks, so that you can make a donation to Craig, and also we'll be putting up his contact information back on the screen as well, so that if you want to reach out to him, you can, and you'll see that scrolling across the screen. You'll also see that in the comment section, so you can reach out to him. And even if you don't live in District F, you may just want to reach out with an encouraging word, right? And lend some support, whether that's passing out flyers or whatever that is, folks. But if you want change, you have to be the change that you want to see.
Right? Exactly.
You can't expect that somebody is going to come to the rescue for every situation. And let me tell you what, folks, here's a different way you make a difference in your life. You see a lot of people run out to go and vote for the president of the United States. Mm-hmm. But the governmental body that makes a difference in your life every day is city council.
Exactly.
So you need to make sure you make the time to go and vote, Early voting is March 6th through the 13th. Election day is March 20th. Craig Marks is here asking for your vote for City Council District F. So a couple of more questions, Craig, and then we're going to be done here. Why should Lake Charles residents be encouraged?
It's because, first of all, we should be encouraged. One, we lived through all of these catastrophes. You know, we've lived through it. We've saw the other side of it. You know, I stayed through the hurricane. You know, people thought I was crazy, but it was just in my spirit to stay. And I saw the devastation. I saw it actually happen. You know, I go to church maybe 15 minutes from my house. And when I left my house and I went and stayed in my church, me and two other guys during the hurricane. And when I walked out of my church that next morning, it took me, which was a 15-minute drive, it took me like an hour and a half to get back to my house because I had to pull trees out the way. I had to park my car a mile away and walk because I couldn't drive, you know. And when I walked out that church and as I moved through the streets, I said, man, we done. My first mindset was, where am I going to go now? I have to take my family somewhere, you know. And as I got closer to my house, things started to open up. And when I got to my house, there was a tree that had fell in my house. And in that moment, I realized, man, it could have been so much worse than what it is. You know, God allowed me not to have as much damage as others, but he showed me that sometimes God has a funny sense of humor. Mm-hmm. You know, he changes things or shows us the things that needs to be changed because we won't do it on our own. And the citizens of Lake Charles ought to understand that, because August is not even a year away. It hasn't even been a year since the hurricane. And we are already back up functioning, you know, almost back to where we was, with the exception of, you know, some buildings torn down, some homes, some displaced people. And I'm not minimizing that, but I'm saying that to see the devastation that we had the day after, and to be here on February 20th, to see what Lake Charles has become, it inspires me, because I know that when we work together, as I told you earlier, no man is the whole of himself. Mm-hmm. So if we work together to build this city, get us some good leadership, get the citizens active again, you know, get our businesses going, we can rebuild Lake Charles bigger and better. I just believe that God has primed us to win. They've primed us to be the old Lake Charles that we grew up in, said, where everybody came to Lake Charles for something. And I want the citizens to understand that we can't put the pressure on people like Sid and others that have went away, been successful, and now we expect you to come back and do all these things for us. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying that if I'm gonna live here, if this is gonna be my home, I have to take ownership of this city and do my part to make things better. And that's what gives me hope, because I've seen our progress in under a year.
Yeah, well, that's actually a great way to look at it, and it's a different way, because a lot of people, you know, quite frankly, you know, are probably not looking at it that way, right? Mm-hmm. How far you've come in a year, even though you may still have a long way to go,
right?
You're no longer where you were,
right? Exactly, right.
And as I ride around the city, and I can see it, especially, you know, in terms of there's still some debris, but not as much as it was. Mm-hmm. And even out on Fishing Rod Road, next to some property that I have, there was a place where they would go and dump stuff to grind it up and all this type of stuff. It's the debris is not as deep as it once was. Right. So absolutely like that. And so, Craig, question for you here is: if there was a book that was written about you, what would the title be, and what would the summary in the back of the book say?
That's a good question. I guess that the title would be, I Can Do All Things Through Christ Jesus, who strengthens me. You know, I know that's a cliche, but as I said earlier, my life, anyone that knows me knows that my life has, I don't like getting pats on the back because, it's my life. But there were times in my life that I could have gave up. When people start to learn more about my history, I am the prime example of somebody that could have become a victim of the streets, someone that could have gave up and been sour on society, been sour on government, been sour on the system. I'm a prime example of that. you know but through faith in God, through belief that better days were coming, through strength in God, because I couldn't do it myself with the things that I've been through. Said, you know, my mind and my motivation and my spirit, it wasn't built like that. But God made it that way because I understand that He'll never put more on you than you can handle. It's just like running for this office. I said there are days that I have to question, man, can you really go do this? Will you really be able to deal with all these people, the criticism and all these different things? And I have to wake myself up to understand God prepared me for this. Whether I win or not is yet to be determined. But God put me where He wanted me to be doing the things that He wants me to do. And it's not by accident that these things are happening. And in the summary in the back of my book will simply say that this is a man that never gave up, had the opportunity to give up, had the means to give up, but he never gave up, and it would be simple as that. And I just, I hope that the things that I do in the community, the things that I do with my friends, with my family, is just remember that that's who I am. That's my heart. I don't do things to get things in return. I don't do things for payment. Don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to be compensated for the work that they do, but my motivation, it's not that, because I remember days where I didn't have a dime, said, and I didn't have too many people in my corner. But I believed in God. I believed in myself. I believe that tomorrow changes the complexion of the whole problem if we can just make it till tomorrow. Because you and I know firsthand, we have some classmates that are no longer with us. Some people that we grew up with that are no longer with us. And as the days go by, I understand that 53 used to seem old, but now we're 53 and it's becoming more and more prevalent that, man, life is futile. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Absolutely. Yes, you're absolutely right about that. And, it's amazing that you say that. But February 23rd, that is my 54th birthday. So it doesn't seem old anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Craig, I truly, brother, appreciate you stepping up and saying, hey, you want to run for City Council District F, and truly appreciate you agreeing to come on the show to talk about your platform and let the citizens get to know who you are. And I wish you nothing but the best to win this position. Folks, March 6th through the 13th is early voting. March 20th is election day. And Craig, I'll leave it to you if you have any final comments you want to tell the audience before we go.
Yes, I want to say this to you, Sid, because, you and I talk on occasion, but due to our schedules or whatever, it's not a lot of time that we sit down like we used to or like we could, but I want to encourage you, because your platform is helping a lot of people, as with anything, when it first started out, I was wondering, where's Sid going with this? What is it going to amount to? And each week, I see that you bring us stuff. You bring us informative stuff. And for those people out there that don't know you, Said, not that you have to prove anything to anybody, your heart is in a good place and your actions speak louder than your words. So I want to take this opportunity to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. You and I both know, the more good you do, evil is always there trying to knock it down, but keep fighting. Keep doing what you're doing, man. And our community appreciates you, especially, our local high school where you do so much work and the people that you work with. So if nobody's ever told you that, man, I appreciate the things that you do for our kids, and you come back, because you could have very well stayed in Houston and not done nothing for the city of Lake Charles, but you give back. I'm proud to say that you and I went to school together. You're my friend, and you're an example of what us as Black men should be and aspire to be.
Well, I truly appreciate that, brother. And you're absolutely right. Giving back to my city, Craig, I'll tell you, it's not something that I have to do, but it's an obligation that I have. And that's an obligation that I have because there's a higher power that gave me a commission that says, I'm going to do some things for you in your life, but it's not for you. It's for you to give it to somebody else. And so I appreciate that, brother. I truly do. Folks, you know, I always tell you every week, make sure if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So don't be on the menu. Thank you guys and have a good night. I hope you've learned something today. And I want you to go out and vote, folks. Let your vote be your voice, as Mr. Craig Marks says. So thank you guys very much. Have a good evening. Thanks, Craig, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.